For nearly 2 decades, Israel and Venezuela have just completely frozen each other out of the diplomatic world. I'm talking no words exchanged, no treaties, just total estrangement. But suddenly, out of nowhere, that ice is finally breaking. Okay, let's dive right into this and see exactly how it happened. Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the end of this 17-year freeze, exactly why ties were cut in the first place, the major geopolitical shift that changed everything, the role of earthquakes and emergency aid, what consular relations actually mean on the ground, and finally, whether we're looking at a broader South American trend.
Section 1. The 17-year freeze ends.
17 long years. Think about that for a second. That's practically an entire generation where these two nations have lacked absolutely any formal diplomatic relations. Since 2009, communication has just been effectively severed, and that's exactly why this sudden resumption of consular ties is an absolute geopolitical earthquake.
Section 2. Why ties were cut.
So to really understand this, we have to look back. The initial rupture actually goes all the way back to 2009. That's when former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez completely severed ties. And this was in direct protest of an Israeli military offensive in Gaza. That basically set this frigid baseline for well over a decade. But fast forward to this past January, the capture of Nicolas Maduro by United States forces really set off a wild chain reaction. Throw in the recent twin earthquakes and, well, that ultimately brings us to today's historic resumption of ties. Section 3. A major geopolitical shift. Now, this reset definitely didn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's truly a tale of two very different administrations. For years and years, the Chavez and Maduro governments strongly opposed Israel, maintaining this really unwavering traditional support for the Palestinian cause. But contrast that with today, and this brilliantly illustrates the pivot. Interim President Delcy Rodriguez is actively backing closer ties with Washington, and by extension, Israel. It's a literal 180-degree departure from Venezuela's traditional geopolitical stance. To grasp how rapidly things changed, we just need to look at the main catalyst here. As the source material notes, this pivot is happening, quote, after the capture of Nicolas Maduro by United States forces and now growing rapprochement of Caracas with Washington. Basically, that January capture gave interim President Rodriguez the exact opening she needed to hit the global reset button. Section 4. Earthquakes and emergency aid.
Sometimes it actually takes an unexpected tragedy to bridge a deep political divide. When those twin earthquakes recently devastated parts of Venezuela, Israel didn't hesitate. They immediately dispatched emergency teams to assist. And this real-world crisis response, it created a really vital opening. It actually led both countries to sit down and formally coordinate their recovery efforts right there on the ground.
But hey, it wasn't just government officials talking across a stiff negotiating table. Not at all. Israel actually made it a point to highlight its strong existing ties with the Jewish community already living within Venezuela. These deep-rooted people-to-people connections, they worked right alongside that emergency aid to help really melt that diplomatic ice. Section 5. What consular relations mean. Now, it's super important to clarify here that consular relations doesn't mean these grand, flashy embassies are just swinging their doors open again just yet. It's much more about practical, everyday logistics. We're talking easier coordination on travel visas, basic passport services, and direct citizen assistance. So if an Israeli citizen runs into trouble in Caracas, or vice versa, they finally have a formal, legal lifeline to get help. At the end of the day, this is fundamentally about helping everyday people navigate the complexities of international travel. Section 6. A South American trend? Now, what's really interesting about this is that when we zoom out, Venezuela's move starts to look way less like an isolated incident and a lot more like a genuine regional shift. Just this week, Venezuela became the second South American country to bolster its relations with Israel, right on the heels of Colombia doing the exact same thing. And the momentum doesn't stop there. Both Argentina and Chile are actually currently considering restoring their embassies in Israel in the aftermath of the recent Gaza war. All of which leaves us with one truly massive question. Will Venezuela's shift create a domino effect that permanently reshapes South American diplomacy? Because if others follow Caracas's lead, the geopolitical map of the region is about to look very, very different. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Definitely keep your eyes on this developing narrative, and I will see you next time.